Good morning, this is Your News Today, streaming on 9Now and YouTube. And here are the stories making headlines this Friday. Sydney activists vow to defy the city's protest ban, how police are responding. Plus, NASA astronauts splash down on Earth early after a medical emergency. And Alex de Minaur's brutal blow in the lead up to the Australian Open.
But we begin in Victoria, which has experienced its second weather emergency in a week. Popular tourist areas along the Great Ocean Road inundated after record rain caused flash flooding. Live to Kiara Parker in Melbourne. Kiara, hundreds were forced to scramble.
Locals and tourists have described how frightening it was with this flooding seeming to come out of nowhere. Several cars were washed out to sea during the deluge, caravans and tents swallowed by the flash flooding. Hundreds of holidaymakers had to be evacuated from caravan parks with an emergency warning issued urging people to get to higher ground immediately. A man aged in his 60s was winched to safety from the roof of a place in Cumberland River, while others in Wye River sought refuge on the roof of the local general store there. Locals have described this frightening wall of water coming towards them. 180 millimetres of rain did fall in 6 hours yesterday. The previous record, 123 mils in 24 hours. Thousands were left without power, and this comes after communities in the Otways just last week were fighting bushfires. Now, there are concerns about landslides. The Great Ocean Road remains closed between Fairhaven and Skeens Creek, and authorities warn more rain is on the way today.
Kiara, thank you.
Sydney activists are pushing ahead with plans to rally tonight and across the weekend, despite a citywide ban on protests brought in after the Bondi attacks. Police have revealed officers on patrol will be carrying long-arm rifles as the state government faces a court challenge over the restrictions curbing the right to free speech. The state's police commissioner will decide on Tuesday whether to extend the ban for another 14 days, which could impact Australia Day protests. The federal government's proposed hate speech and gun laws in the wake of the Bondi terror attack are this morning in jeopardy, with both the Coalition and the Greens coming out against them. Opposition leader Susan Lee is expressing concerns that the reforms are too broad and impede on free speech. Meanwhile, the Greens are seeking to widen the protections to all religions and other types of hate.
From what we have seen so far, it looks pretty unsalvageable, and it doesn't address the rise of anti-Semitism and the associated terrorist threat in Australia.
If we have to tackle hate, it has to be in all its forms, and racism also in all its forms.
Parliament will return on Monday to debate the legislation. The fate of the footbridge used during the Bondi Beach terror attack remains up in the air this morning. Live now to Nicole Dunn at Bondi Beach. Nicole, council held a meeting with locals last night.
And hundreds of people wanted to have their say, Jane, because despite the pleas of the Premier, Chris Minns, to demolish this ghoulish reminder of the terror attack, local residents and members of the Jewish community want it to be preserved as part of a permanent memorial to the 15 victims who tragically lost their lives here. A final decision won't be made until at least the middle of this year, but Waverley Council has now unanimously agreed to produce a report into the costs of either keeping or demolishing this footbridge here behind me. The families of the victims will be consulted and ultimately have a huge say into whether or not it stays or goes. Jane.
Nicole, thank you.
The White House has just given an update on the ongoing situation in Iran. While protests and violence have eased to some degree, the president's press secretary says the US still has all options on the table, having previously threatened to strike. For now, there are no plans to carry out an attack after Iranian officials assured the Trump administration that arrested protesters would not be executed. Soldiers from NATO countries have arrived in Greenland. French President Emmanuel Macron confirming a bolstered European presence after talks with the US. Danish and Greenlandic officials at the White House failed to produce an adequate solution. The Prime Minister of Denmark said the American ambition to take over Greenland is intact.
For the first time in almost 30 years, astronauts have been medically evacuated from the International Space Station. Live now to US correspondent Jonathan Kersley. Jono, this would be a relief for NASA to have them all back on Earth.
It absolutely will be. All four have been taken to a hospital where they will spend tonight before returning to the NASA Space Center in Houston tomorrow for more post-flight testing. In the early hours this morning, Californian time, that capsule, the SpaceX Crew 11, touched back down off the coast of California near San Diego, and then one by one, the two Americans, the Japanese astronaut and the Russian cosmonaut were removed from that capsule before being taken off to hospital. NASA has not specified what the medical issue was or who is the patient, citing privacy concerns. But this is a huge moment for NASA. The first time since the International Space Station was established in 1998 that they have had to return a crew because of a medical issue on board. This is what the NASA administrator had to say.
They're all going to the hospital as we had determined days ago as the proper thing to do under the circumstances. But as I mentioned, the crew member in question specifically is doing fine.
So the crew's mission ends a month early, but they're all safely back on Earth. Joel.
Thank you.
Well, the Trump name could soon be stamped on the Gold Coast with talks of a new tower underway. Live now to Andrea Crothers in Surfers Paradise. Andrea, what exactly do we know?
Well, Jane, the site in question is this 3,500 square metre block here. It's sat dormant for years. It was the old Aluka Resort. It was demolished in 2013, 2019 it was sold. At one point, a 285 metre tower with 700 units was to go up, but it never went ahead at all. So could the Don be headed to the GC? Well, the deal isn't done yet. There are talks underway with a developer, but those in council say if it did happen, it would be a massive win for the Goldie. Jane.
The glitter strip is a perfect place, Andrea. Thank you.
More than 4.7 million underage accounts were deactivated since the start of Australia's landmark social media ban. The e-Safety Commissioner reports that all 10 major platforms, including TikTok and Instagram, have been making meaningful efforts to comply with the new under-16 age limit. Doctors are being encouraged to prescribe strength training to patients who use weight loss injectables. New Deakin University research has found up to 50% of weight lost from injectables is likely muscle and bone mass, leaving patients weaker and frailer. Experts say those using the drug should incorporate weight-bearing exercise multiple times a week.
Well, Alex de Minaur's been given a taste of what's potentially coming at the Australian Open, falling in straight sets to world number one Carlos Alcaraz in an exhibition match.
If the Demon can survive a very tricky first week at his home slam, the two could clash again in the quarterfinals, and he's staying optimistic.
Matteo Berrettini, you've got Francis Tiafoe, Bublik, Carlos. They're not doing any favours here at the home slam.
Hey, if it was meant to be easy, everyone would do it. So I'm excited for the challenge.
That is a rough draw, isn't it? For Alcaraz, the Australian Open is the one Grand Slam that still eludes him, with the Spaniard yet to make a semi-final in Melbourne.
It is a bad draw, but a great attitude.
You've got to go in with a good attitude.
Go the Demon. Let's take a look at the weather now across the country. A wet and soggy day on the way for Queensland, New South Wales and the ACT.
Cooler temperatures in Hobart, a top of 19 degrees, and the sun is outshining to end the working week for Adelaide and Perth.